This is a very simple bill. It would prohibit a person from carrying or possessing any firearm, knife, or deadly weapon on the property of a public institution of higher education in the state. We have a set of clarifying amendments that have been handed in that we worked with the university system to deal with some issues of individuals who have a reason to have a weapon, a culinary student who needs a knife on campus, an off-duty police officer who might be taking a class, those sorts of things that I think we've tried to clarify with this amendment. So again, members, when you think about why would we want to keep firearms off of college campuses, to me it's because you're at a stage of life where you have a lot of emotion, a lot of hormones, a lot of things that can go wrong in one's life, and the details show that in fact when you have guns on campus, you actually have higher crime rates. In campuses that have allowed concealed carry laws, the FBI Uniform Crime Statistics data from 2004 to 2013 show that crime is actually greater on those campuses. That in fact what you wind up having when you have guns on campuses is you have a deadly weapon that is most likely going to be used to kill yourself, or to have your roommate grab it and for them to kill themselves, or in a moment of passion to kill their roommate or their significant other. That is who dies on college campuses. The idea personally that there's going to be a gunfight and you're going to somehow save the day and respond, that isn't our history. That isn't what happens on college campuses. So I would just point out, again, with statistics, in Utah and Colorado, where they have allowed concealed carry on certain campuses, the number of rapes have increased by 25%. In 2000, went up 25% in 2012, 36% in 2013. Utah has seen their rapes on campus also go up. So in reality, the data show, not on a college campus when I use this data, but in general, where every time a woman has used a handgun to kill a stranger in self-defense, 302 women have been murdered with a handgun. So this isn't about self-protection. This is about actually protecting the entire student body and keeping people from doing harm to themselves at a very difficult and often challenging and thrilling and exhilarating point in one's life when they have the opportunity to be a student on a college campus. So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I would much rather turn it over to the experts who have experience day in and day out with this than go on with my testimony. It looks like there are a few blinking lights.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So I have two questions for you. So the first one is, I mean, if somebody wants to come on campus and do something like this, I mean, do you really honestly in your heart believe that because you added 2 words to a bill that all of a sudden they're going to be like, you know what, there's a law against this, so I think I've changed my mind. I'm not crazed or demented or anything like that, and I've changed my mind because of this law, and I think I'll wait till they step off of campus and walk across the street, and then I'll take them out. Do you honestly believe?
I will give you my opinion.
Sure.
And I don't know how the professionals are going to respond and potentially feel different. So my personal opinion is,
sure,
no. The crazy person who's coming on campus to shoot up a campus because they've got some anger with the world around them,
right,
or no, it's not going to stop somebody. But the reality of the people who die on a college campus due to gun violence are not people who are targeted in a mass shooting that gets huge national attention, but the distraught 18 or 19-year-old who picks up their roommate's gun and kills themselves because their girlfriend just broke up with them. That's the violence that I'm trying to stop in keeping guns out of this, which I think we can agree is an unusual environment of having a lot of people the same age living on top of each other, and that's where I think we can make a huge difference in keeping this off.
So the roommate's gun, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So, I mean, so the roommate would have to have a concealed carry permit to bring it onto campus?
No, I'm not saying, I mean, if we make it very clear, they're not supposed to have it in the university system, they're not supposed to have it on campus now.
Right,
But we're trying to be very firm, we're trying to make it very firm in statute that this is the case. So you asked my opinion, Senator, I give you my.
Right, and believe me, there are some parts of gun control legislation over the years I've supported and some I haven't supported, so I really don't, affiliate myself on either side. I like to look at each bill independently. But you just stated that, in fact, they're not allowed to have them on campus now, so so what's the added incentive if it's already against the law to have them on campus now?
So, Senator, I would just say, if I could, I would love for you to hear from experts here who are on campus every day dealing with these situations.
Second question, fair enough. Second question that may be a little different. If you feel the same way, I'll defer to them. So I looked on your amendment, and you have the word or deadly weapon on the property of a public institution. So is deadly weapon defined in the code?
I'm not sure. This is the language that we worked out with representatives from the university system to go through. It is? Can we get back to you with that?
Yeah, because I'm thinking to myself, you have a knife in there, which says, I see your exception for the knife, but what if somebody has like a hammer? I think a hammer is more deadly than a folding pocket knife. So, like, where do you start and where do you stop?
Well,
with
that's true. Well, I think there are common sense provisions. I'm sure there's for martial arts classes, there are things that could be used as a deadly weapon that you or I wouldn't necessarily identify or be able to use as a deadly weapon.
But that doesn't make sense either, because the martial arts person that you're willing to exclude may be just as distraught over his girlfriend breaking up or being slighted or bullied than anybody else. So, like, I almost get the part if you just want to make guns, but all of a sudden when you hit knives and you say deadly weapons, I just think, Senator, you're going down a path that weakens the piece of legislation, that's all.
Well, if you have ways, I see your point, and if you have ways to strengthen this that will garner your support, I am happy to work with you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just an anecdote. Back in 1975, I was going to the University of Baltimore, and I was in a public speaking class, and I had to give a descriptive speech. And I took a Remington 1100 automatic 12 gauge in the University of Baltimore, and gave them a speech on how to disassemble it and reassemble it, and I didn't do very well because I lost some O-rings and I couldn't get it back together. But I mean, it's such a change in times. I couldn't imagine going to the University of Baltimore right now with a 12 gauge automatic over my shoulder. My question is, why did you feel necessary to add knives in this? I know so many young men in Hartford and Cecil County, they attend Harvard Community College, Cecil, and they carry pocket knives. I mean, a knife is not the same as a .45 automatic. A knife's not the same as a .38 revolver. There are good reasons for men to have a pocket knife in their vest, and I just don't understand why knives had to be included in this.
I think as we drafted the bill, we went with a series of language that, in hindsight, because the very first phone call I got was from a culinary student who said, "What are you doing?" I wish I had looked at it from that perspective about knives, and if there's some way,
would you be upset with an amendment?
If there's some way that we can figure that out that works for everyone, I am happy to do that.
Thank you.
And I would remind you that I think in the late 1980s, a delegate from District 20 by the name of Peter Francho, who you may have heard of, I think he actually assembled an automatic weapon on the floor of the House to make his point during a gun control law, and I'm sure times have changed. That would not happen now.
Thank you.
Is there any college in Maryland that currently allows guns on campus?
From a policy standpoint, do you know the answer to that? Yes, ma'am. Can she respond?
I'll wait to her to testify that. And then, I'm just curious, because, I just like to answer this, because when I'm looking at this, I went to college when I had gone 4 years in the military, I had gotten out. And I was just looking at the shooting in Oregon. Actually, the guy that stopped that was actually a combat veteran, or one of the guys that stood up and fought back and all that. So I actually just see it that, I'm looking at your map here, that almost none of the University of Maryland system allows it, so it's not going to have any practical effect. But these people that are mentally deranged, they look for places that are gun-free zones, and I just worry that this is an advertisement to all these people that say, hey, you want to shoot somebody, go to a college campus. They don't have guns there. I mean, that's what these guys look for. I mean, like the shooter in the movie theater in Denver, he drove past a theater where I guess they could allow guns or whatever. He went to the gun-free one. So that's what these guys look for. So, I mean, aren't you worried? And if it doesn't seem to have much of a practical effect, but has effective advertising to somebody that's deeply mentally disturbed, these schizophrenics, to go shoot up a college campus.
Well, Senator, I would love to work with you on a way to figure out how we can reduce access to firearms for those individuals as well, so that we can have a safer community. I mean, you want to have a larger conversation about guns in our society.
So, I mean, we're
you're
working
offering
on
amendments to the Second Amendment, and I'm willing to listen to what you have to say.
I mean, we can't set up a perfect society, though. People are always going to get a hold of these things, and they clearly go to these gun-free zones. And I just look at it, too, like I said, in my own experience, though, there are veterans on campus. The last, I just mentioned, the shooting stopped it, and I've always believed there was something said behind the theory the best way to stop a bad guy is with a good guy with a gun, to stop a bad guy. And that Virginia Tech shooting, that guy went room to room shooting everybody. If there had been a veteran, I mean, we got a lot of Iraq War veterans, Afghan veterans. I was a veteran when I went. I didn't go straight to college, or I went to high school. I did 4 years in the military, then I went to college. So I was in there with a lot of younger people. When I was in Senator Brochen's class, I'd done my 4 years, and there are other people in there now. We had a lot of combat veterans that are in college now. If one of my kids was in there, I'd pray to God that one of these Iraq War vets or a police officer or somebody else had a gun to stop one of them. Because how do you stop, if one of these people gets onto Towson and they get into one of those buildings, you know what those buildings are, they're not security around there. They're going to go room to room, and they can shoot everybody like Virginia Tech.
And I think you're going to hear, hopefully you're going to hear testimony from two people who are here today who have to think about and consider and worry about that sort of thing happening any day on their campuses. And hopefully you're going to hear from them about it in a way that will be far more meaningful than from me. I would just come back to the standpoint of this isn't about, I think, stopping the deranged person, the mentally ill person who decides that they are going to go on a shooting spree and take out whoever they happen to find. This is more about keeping weapons away from people who are at a potential stage in their life where they're going to make a bad decision about a suicide, about a significant other who they believe has been cheating on them, something like that. That is where you're going to be more apt to find a young person dying of a violent crime on a college campus than a mass shooting that disgusts us all, that scares us all. But I think you're going to hear a different story from these professionals.
So you're saying your concern is more somebody having a gun in the campus and leaving it in their dorm room. Is that more what you're saying your concern is?
I think that is a great concern, that you have. This is not a good, to me, which is why these universities have these policies, which is why I think we should enshrine them in law. It's not a good thing to have the weapons on the campuses, and in places where they have allowed concealed carry on college campuses, crime and violence has gone up.
We don't allow
and
that
not gone
anywhere in
down.
Maryland, though, that we know of.
Now, I'm just saying, I think
Okay.
we should enshrine this in law.
Well, I'll just double check, but my understanding is if you're worried about even pretending they can have it in their dorm room, which I don't think they can, I got to back double check, but I think the law of Maryland is you're not supposed to be leaving guns loaded, even I think in your own home. I got to double check, but I'm pretty sure you got to have a lock on them, and you cannot leave a loaded gun, even in your own home right now, without it being locked up, without a trigger lock or something like that. You've already broken a law anywhere. If you have in your house, your car, your business, wherever the hell it may be, you can't actually have a loaded gun unlocked up laying around. I mean, so if that person at a college camp, or if they live off campus, And if they're in an apartment building, they leave a loaded gun laying out, they've already broken a law, Maryland law.
And they will live, just like I'm sure there are plenty of parents in our state who live with the trauma of knowing their own child killed themselves with the parent's weapon because it was not secured, because they thought it was, and the child got it, and there is now a death of their own child or of a family friend. And I'm trying to take the extra step to stop that trauma from occurring, to stop that death from occurring.
I understand what you're saying. I'll just close saying, I just think it's going to have unintended consequences. I think this is a big advertisement to these terrorists and mentally deranged people to go to our college campuses. But I think it's just going to have unintended consequences of what you're trying to do.
All right, let me just have one final quick question, just because, although my name seems to be on it. The drafting is odd. This would seem to suggest, I understand why, following up on Senator Norman's question about knives, that you would not want to have an elementary school kid take, that's the law that you tacked onto.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a lot of spaghetti when I was in college, but I'm pretty sure I had a steak knife in my dorm room, and this would basically make it a possession of that a crime. I mean,
Right,
I
so
don't.
I understand.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. Knives at all. It doesn't. It's not just for a culinary student. It's for everybody. I mean, you would make every college
Right.
cafeteria illegal, unless they had plastic, I guess. Anyway, just some thoughts. All right.